Hi everyone, Grover from Upscale here, and today we're going to be talking about the Abyss Diana TC headphones. So the Abyss Diana TC, it's the high-end flagship of the Diana series. You may remember the original Diana, and then of course the Diana V2. This one sits above those. So the Diana TC, let's talk a little bit about Abyss. You're probably familiar with the Abyss 1266, and if this video comes out second, as it should, check out our Abyss 1266 Phi TC video that we've done on that headphone, a headphone that a lot of people have called something that resembles a medieval torture device. Now, that funny description aside, Abyss headphones have always occupied a really interesting place in the headphone market. They're planar magnetic headphones, but they're done a little differently from everyone else. They have a sound that really nobody else has. The house sound's very distinctive. It's really dynamic, it's got incredible slam and impact. It asks a lot of an amplifier, but when amplified properly, it does things that really no other headphone does, kind of bridging the gap between a modern high-end planar magnetic headphone and one of the traditional old-school ear speaker style headphones like an AKG K1000. So the Diana, does the Diana deliver on the promise of the 1266? Well, with the TC version, I would say, yeah, kind of. It's a little different than that headphone. It's a bit less expensive for beginners. However, it has a slightly different design and construction. Whereas the 1266 kind of floats on your head with that floating headband strap and the ear speaker sort of style of wearing is in place there. With these, you have a little bit more of a traditional fit, or something that's in between that and a traditional fit. The headband sits more directly on the top of your head, and although the pads don't seal completely, much like the 1266, they do definitely squeeze the side of your head a little bit more. Although I don't find the pressure to be particularly unmanageable. Now, the interesting thing about the Diana, of course, is to know, well, what does it sound like? In this case, I think this is quite an interesting and very savvy decision by the folks at Abyss. The sound of the Diana retains a lot of the interesting slam and sort of snap and musicality of the 1266, although it doesn't quite have as much. But it trades in some of that dynamic quality for a much flatter frequency response. If you look at graphs of this headphone, you'll see something which resembles much more closely the Olive Welty curve or the Apple curve or one of the other sort of target response curves. You'll see a nice flat response through the midband, a little bit of a rise at 3K, and then slight roll off in the top treble. That curve to me is much nicer sounding from a musical standpoint than the original 1266 curve. The 1266 makes up for not having quite as flat a frequency response by having pretty crazy dynamics and huge bass impact. In this case, the Diana can't quite match the bass impact of the 1266, but what it lacks there, it makes up for in further refinements in its frequency response. So this headphone to me is really one of the more compelling choices if you want that Abyss house sound, but you really don't want that sort of slightly scooped mid-range that the 1266 has, although the Phi TC does that make that better. Now, of course, the primary thing to talk about here is the comfort. I don't find this headphone to be quite as comfortable as the 1266. In fact, it's one of my least favorite headphone headband designs. The top band really doesn't have much padding, and it does sit directly on your head. It kind of flanges out, and then the ear pads kind of squeeze into your head this way. I just don't find it to be a terribly comfortable headphone. Now, some people have said differently. I know that I tend to have small ears, but a rather large head. So depending on, obviously, the shape of your cranium, no judgments here, will kind of determine whether or not you find these headphones comfortable. I will say that with some updated ear pad designs and some tweaks that they've made over the years, these headphones are really not as bad as people sort of made a fuss about when the very first Diana came out. I find them wearable, and I really don't find them too troublesome. However, something to be noted of. Come into the store and try them out for sure if you have doubts about whether or not they might fit you. Now, that aside, I do have to say, premium cable, just like the 1266, obviously they are known for being a premium cable company, and the price point is a bit less than the 1266. This is a more affordable headphone. On another note, they're also a bit easier to drive. Although they do still require a fairly beefy amplifier, these headphones don't require the crazy amplifier that a 1266 or a Susvara require. This is a much easier to drive headphone. You can drive it with things that might drive your sort of more run-of-the-mill 200 ohm or 120 ohm Odyssey headphone. Now, they do like a little bit of juice. They do thrive on things kind of like, say, a Felix Envy or even a Pathos Aureum or Pathos Impul. That said, I have found I've been able to drive these off of sort of less powerful amplifiers than that and still had pretty decent results. But I would for sure recommend in a headphone of this price category that you invest in a really worthwhile amplifier. When they're driven properly, much like their big brother, the 1266, these headphones can sound fantastic. They have snap, they have slam, the frequency response is much flatter and much more even sounding, and despite the comfort, perhaps for me, not being where I would like it, these are a really terrific sounding set of headphones. This is definitely amongst the top flagship headphones in the market in terms of sheer sound quality here. I would also like to point out for a moment that this build quality is really, although a little bit less industrial than the 1266, really quite good. Again, largely metal build quality, nice feel to it, non-resonant chassis. The ear pad is made out of nice soft leather. This is a great headphone. It's made well and it should last you for a very long time. So overall, Diana TC, the new flagship of the Diana line, thumbs up from me. I think it's a really nice headphone and well worth an audition if you're in the market for high-end planar magnetic in this price point. That's all. Upscaleaudio.com as always, and if you find these videos useful, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.